looking at, you said something about shared humanity. And in every organization, or where there's bound to be a coming together of any one, two people, there's need for someone to set the pace, to show the example, to point out the way to go. How are we faring in that angle?
I think you need to look at the society comprehensively, and you need to look at the foundation of our society. It's in ruin. The foundation of any society is the value construct on which that society stands. What are the value constructs that interest us the most in our society today? Look at it. It all reduces into the matter of what Suleiman asked me, monetized. We're talking about girls children of the poor and the vulnerable, that if they had been the daughters of the members of the elite class, we wouldn't have needed to be screaming to say, go and rescue these girls. Because we've seen it. We've seen the clear cases of inequality where a person from the elite class gets abducted or kidnapped or whatever it is. And within a matter of 24 hours, the response to their abduction is so dramatic that within a week, we're told they've been rescued. Inequality. Why? Because we're a society given to respecting money. Money has become our be-all and end-all. And we're now a society where when you think about leadership, leadership has become about position. It has become about material acquisition. Now, what do you say of leadership in such a society?
It hasn't always been that way. I mean, we had issues. I mean, leadership used to be about service. I mean, that's why we talk about people like Awolowo and Zeke. How did we get to this point where it's like a decay? So how did we get here? How did it get so...
It crept up on us, right? It crept up on us. For the truth is, if you looked in a way, if you looked in a very clinical way at the difference between the outcomes of independence in Singapore, they were also colonized by Britain. And you looked at the outcomes post-independence for Nigeria or many of the countries on the continent, if you really clinically did an analysis of it, it ultimately ends up in a conversation about leadership. And so in the early days of our independence, I keep saying that there was a missed opportunity. The missed opportunity was essentially that our nationalists had a mental mode in a way that ended up as a replacement of the extractive colonialists. As distinct from what Lee Kuan Yew did. Lee Kuan Yew, he completely wrecked all the strictures and the structures of extraction of that alienated society where there was a master and then there were the minions. So in making things like just symbol of, say, the GRA, where the elite settled into, a complete disconnect was centered in the relationship in our society. Now, guess what that subsequently did? It subsequently told people that the way to get ahead of everybody is to have enough position to give you material possession. And over time, even the so-called military corrective regimes that said, oh, we're knocking off the Democrats in the 60s because of corruption, because of nepotism, because of all the ills that they outlined. As soon as they got in there, they were taken over by the same tendencies. And then another group would come and knock them off and say it is because if you looked at every speech that was ever made to justify coups in a nation, the number one topic was always corruption. But what would happen? The one that would take over would actually classically improve on that, on the corruption of the previous one. So it showed you that our society began to put the matter of acquisition, money, possession at the center of our governance. And no wonder we have now reduced leadership to the lowest common denominator.
Exactly, we're talking about this, and you've just mentioned one individual that, in my assessment, would have been termed a saint if you try to be in a religious circle. Lee Kuan Yew have started, and how he even ran to neighboring Malaysia, and the doors were shut against them, and he came back and he said, this is business that we must all face. And they did what they did today. Yes. Said that Malaysia now looks to Singapore with envy. Now, we have always thought about doing things. You were in government. We have always talked about looking inwards. We've talked about fixing our refineries, because it doesn't make sense that I make Gary, I need to take it to another country to get it fried and brought in. For me, it really doesn't make sense. We have always talked about the fixing of our refineries, trying to diversify our economy from mono economy to really big-time economy that will flourish. But we have never moved to changing these things we have identified. As we speak now, some Nigerians are complaining about what form of austerity measures we have just plunged ourselves into. How can we rejig things to the extent that what we have come to realize can actually be implemented and driven home?
We can't get any of that until the foundation of our society is redesigned. You know, the citizens have to make a determination as to what kind of values will define a new normal. Because what we have is an abnormality. This society is not going anywhere until we can define a new normal. A new normal that says that truth is truth, lie is lie. A new normal that says that actually hard work should be the basis of becoming wealthy, not the fact that you went into government. Nobody goes into government in Lee Kuan Yew's Singapore with a mindset of becoming a billionaire. I have many of them as classmates at the university, in the United States. None of them has that acquisitive mindset in providing public service. But look at us. You know, there was a recent storm because I said I was in government and that there were times when it was hard for me to be able to pay the house rent for my mom. People said, how can she say that? Why were they asking that question? You would dare to ask? It's because they immediately look at me and they say, how many years in government? Even if, what they did not realize is that at the time that we were in government, the salary that I would take home, I don't think it was up to 300,000 naira. We had home, you know, house is provided, you have a car.
That's hard to believe.
But that was what it was. I mean, I don't talk on the basis of supposition. That's why I don't get into certain conversations. For me, empirical evidence is what matters. And I don't say things to impress anybody. Who cares whether you're impressed or not impressed? I don't care about that. So the point is that to the extent that we have not said to ourselves that the culture of sacrifice is an important virtue for leadership. We have not said that hard work will be the basis of the governance of our nation at the unit individual level, meaning every day that my child wakes up, I say to them exactly what my dad said to me. Seest thou a young woman diligent in her work, she will stand before kings and not before mean men. So I understood instantly that hard work, effort had to be my core value. We have not said to ourselves that dishonesty, where it manifests itself, must be adequately, predictably sanctioned so that it becomes a deterrent to the behavior. I always put it this way. A child comes here and throws trash on the floor, and we just look and we smile. We all look away. We don't say anything to the child. The next day, the child comes to the carpet he's not going to throw trash on the floor. He's going to wee-wee on the floor. And we all just, we look at him, we look at the wee-wee, and we carry on with our conversation. On the third day, the child will come, and he will do measure on the floor. That's what he will do. Because all the times that he behaved badly, we looked away. And guess what would happen? On the third day he's coming with 3 of his friends. That's what it is. That's a very simple way of being able to describe what incentives and sanctions will do to a society. Until we got that right, we're not going anywhere. And let me close this thought on the matter of leadership, because I spoke at it. I've so far spoken on it from the side of the citizens. On the side of the leadership of this nation, at every level, whether at the public sector, that is government or private sector or civil society level, one thing is clear. There is something called the unsustainability of failure. It is either the elite of this society spoke truth to itself and understood that the bad choices on a consistent basis that has been made imperils the society and therefore imperils they. In fact, the theory of elitism would suggest that a proper elite would be self-interested to not ruin the society, because they have more to lose when a society implodes.
Well, obviously, it's like good a place for us to anchor this, but we must stay on this leadership issue. We must keep talking about it. December, we'll be talking about the Chibok girls until they are brought. We'd like to thank you so very much for finding time to join us. She's the co-convener, Bring Back Our Girls, and they say not the girls, our girls. And she's also former Minister of Education here in the country. So, Azila takes a break. We'll return shortly.